Hi, folks. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Eileen Roche, founder of Designs and Machine Embroidery. And I'm so excited to introduce you, maybe it's a first-time introduction for you, to Margaret Moorehead from the Virtual Sewing Guild. So hi, Margaret, how are you today?
Hi, Eileen. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I'm really thrilled that you accepted my invitation because I think our viewers will really benefit from meeting you and learning about all the things that you offer at the Virtual Sewing Guild. You were really ahead of your time, right? I mean, this past year with COVID, everybody's going virtual, but you've been doing this for a very long time.
I have. I started my virtual classes in 2007, and nobody even knew what the word virtual meant. I had to keep explaining what it meant, but now COVID, everybody knows it. So it's been fun and a fun, exciting journey.
It's really amazing. And you and I have worked together in the past. We've taught at industry trade shows, like in neighboring classrooms, and once you did a wonderful class, a series of classes for a charity that's dear to our heart here at Dime, and that's the Be the Difference Ovarian Cancer Foundation. So thank you for doing that, and you helped raise an awful lot of money for that foundation many years ago, so we appreciate it.
Well, you know what? It was really fun, and we did raise a lot of money, but it's because we worked so well together. You all were very generous with the specials that we were able to offer everybody. And I think everybody benefited from it. And I was so happy to be a part of that.
Well, thank you again for that. But, let's get to what we really want to talk about today. And I see beautiful samples behind you. Oh, they are just stunning. So I know at the Virtual Sewing Guild, you have 3 general topics that you teach. But you were telling me when I asked, well, how do you capitalize on the latest trends? So tell us about that.
Well, I have this belief that there are 3 basic categories of sewing, and this is just very simplistic, and it's my opinion. But there's the garment sewers. They want to sew their clothing, and we're always going to wear garments, so that trend is always going to be there to sew clothes. But the trend of the clothes we sew is different. So, the couture and the very tailored clothes were in there for a while, and people still do that. But we kind of moved to more activewear, more casual, like I have on, I did not make this, but loose fitting tops, and a lot of the knit came in style. And now I'm seeing leggings were it for years and years and years. And now I'm seeing that in the younger people, more specifically, they're going away from the leggings and into the more loose fitting pants, and you're seeing a little bit of the bagginess at the top of the pants again. So that's what I think is happening in the garment industry. And then the other topic that I think is quilts. So you're always going to have a top, a middle, and a back. But think about it, Eileen. We cut up the fabrics, we put them back together, and the patterns don't change that much, but what changes? The fabrics.
Right. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm guilty of cutting them all up, right? We're all guilty of that. They're like jigsaw puzzles.
Yeah. So, but it's been going on for years and years and years. So the trend of quilting is going to stay, and that kind of goes into 2 different categories. You've got the people who like to make the quilt tops, and those tops might just be piecing, and they might be the beautiful machine embroidery. And that goes with garments also. People put the machine embroidery on the garments, or they might be whole cloth quilts. So that would be your tops. And then we've got the whole long arm quilting craze that's going on. People who never, so many people to do quilting before, you had the quilting bees and we all went to one person's house. And now tons of people, including myself, have gotten those beautiful long arm machines. So,
oh, you have a long arm? Wow, Margaret. Good for you. Good for you.
I have a great big one. I can do king size quilts in. It's got a 30-inch throat. So it's nice.
Yeah. Well, we're all about quilting with your embroidery machine here. So, I can do a king size quilt on my top of the line embroidery machine. It just takes me a little longer than it takes you for sure.
But you can do it so much different, and it's beautiful. I can't I think back to what my grandma would say about this stuff. The things that we
Yeah,
can do on our home machines. It's crazy. What are they going to think of next? It's so much you can do. So,
absolutely.
um,
Absolutely.
the third category is kind of the catch-all, in my opinion, and that is the
Mhm.
home deck and the gifts and the bags and the things like that. So they don't fit into garments, they don't really fit into quilting, and it's kind of all those other things. And I love to focus, that's probably where I focus most of my time on, is a smaller wall hanging, like you see in the back, instead of the great big quilts. Um, or little pillows. Let's see, my pillow's over here. It's mirror imaged. I always get confused.
Yeah.
So, or a small pillow you might do. Or one of my favorite projects is tucked back in the corner over there. That uses a technique called embroidery decoupage, where you take a embroidery design that is meant to be stitched on a piece of fabric and you stitch it on organza and some stabilizer. Your beautiful cutaway no-show mesh stabilizer works great for it. And then
Mhm.
you remove the excess fabric and stabilizer, and then you just glue it onto the dictionary. When I was a kid, I would ask my dad how you spell something, and he would say, "Look it up in the dictionary." And I always thought that was silly because I didn't know how to spell it, so I didn't know how to look it up. But my dad's long passed, but the dictionary was on the bookshelf when I was cleaning out their house, and I just couldn't get rid of it. So I
Oh,
made it into a home deck item.
that's precious. I know, my mother had a gift of language also. She studied Latin in high school, and she could tell you, the meaning of any word that was completely unknown to her just by because of her Latin background. So I think we've got,
Yeah,
Google and so forth. We've kind of lost that art. Everything's right at our fingertips. We don't need
yeah.
to store so much information, but oh well, we're digressing from the main topic. So, the quilt that's behind you, let's talk a little bit about, um, who created that. I mean, I know you made it, but you were inspired by your friend from Australia, I think, right?
Yes. So I'm actually going to fess up. Jenny actually created this quilt, and
Oh,
for those of you who know Jenny, she is such a talented and creative person. And I have basically taken over the Jenny Haskins embroidery designs and teaching the classes and everything. So the quilt that I
mhm.
made is done in totally different colors. So, and you'll
Oh,
see a
beautiful.
of it. So anyway, but the one behind me was made by Jenny, and it's gorgeous, and it covers so many techniques. We talked about the embroidery decoupage for the little dictionary over there. We used embroidery decoupage in a lot of different areas of this. And later, Eileen, I have a PowerPoint, and they'll see some of the pictures close up, and they can get a better feel for it. But the beauty of this, I think, is that you can make it any way you want. And there's so many techniques. And I know that most people are far more talented than they give themselves credit for. And I see some beautiful samples behind you where you've done a lot of creative stuff with it. So I feel like we're getting out of the box and doing some really creative things. And we're helping to let everybody else have success doing these things also.
Yeah, it's really always been my goal with machine embroidery and here at Dime is to encourage people to use their machines first off. We invest a lot of money in that purchase. And
Yes.
and then to really draw out their creative skills. People who I don't really consider myself an artist. I don't draw that well. I can sketch, but I don't really draw. But with the tools that are available today, like in software and so forth, I draw all that. I mean, that's amazing. If I had to take that pen and paper, pen to paper, I definitely wouldn't get the same result that I can on a computer, which is encouraging, I think, to everyone.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And it allows you, me, and everybody else to let our creativity extend beyond inside of our souls. We get to choose the colors, we get to choose the fabric, we get to choose all of that. We get to make it ours. And it
Yeah.
doesn't take, like, if you were going to build a house, that takes years. We get to do our things and get results pretty quickly. So that's nice.
I agree. And I think sometimes when we go to class, maybe you take a class at a quilt show from a famous quilter or wherever you go, it can be intimidating to work with others. first off, I always have called sewing a solitary sport. It's something that we normally do in the privacy of our own home. So with that being said, the mistakes that you make are your own little secret, right? Nobody's in your sewing room watching or observing that. And when you go into a classroom, that can be intimidating. First of all, you have the instructor who is hopefully more experienced than you are, or she wouldn't be teaching you, right? And
Right.
sometimes your neighbors right in the classroom can make you feel intimidated, and maybe you don't express the creativity that you really had hoped to get out of the class. So what I'm really getting at is like virtual classes is kind of a great blend of the two, working independently at home and yet under the guidance of a great teacher. So is that what someone would experience at the Virtual Sewing Guild?
Yeah, they certainly would. Now, before I go into that, I want to jump back where you said, you might be intimidated to be in a class. And I remember I used to teach a lot of live classes. I was at all the industry shows and I went to dealers and everything. And one of the things I would always say is, okay, the first thing we need to know is somebody's going to finish first.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to finish last, and last may be at your home. It doesn't matter though. It's just enjoying the process as we go through. So don't worry about what your neighbors are doing or are not doing. You're in this for your experience. And I think that needs to be remembered. Even when I go take a class, I'm like, I'll volunteer to be last. I am not fast at what I do.
Yeah.
So I can be the last one, and I'm okay with that. So, but back to the Virtual Sewing Guild. I started the Virtual Sewing Guild, like we talked about, in 2007. And I was so new at this. I was so green. I had never been to a virtual event. I had been on one conference call in my life. That was my extent of technology. And everybody kept saying in my classes, Margaret, you should teach these online. You should do online classes. So I said, okay. And then I called up somebody who had a web service and I borrowed it. It was Judy from Occoquan, Virginia. And so I went up and she filmed me, and I got somebody to figure out how to do all the web stuff. That was Dory. I think you know Dory. And she did all my web stuff. Yep. And then we went online, and so I had everything recorded and it was great. And then I introduced it with a webinar, and it was going to be a half-hour webinar, and I was going to overview the first part of the class. It was a 6-part class. And my webinar that was going to be a half hour, I got done in 10 minutes. I went so darn fast. I was so nervous. And so I went, oh, now there's our overview. Now let's go back and talk about this more in detail. And I went back. And I had calmed down, and sewists are such beautiful and nice people and supportive. So I only started with 10 people because I was a nervous wreck. A lot of those 10 people are still with me today.
Oh my goodness.
So,
isn't that lovely? And today, how many? That has multiplied many times.
Oh my gosh, many, many, many times. And the numbers, I've had thousands and thousands and thousands of people in my classes and in my memberships. And I remember and we are going to get to sewing, but the other story was I had my first big webinar. So I branched out from 10 people. I got the webinar to hold 1,000 people. I invited Simon Haskins, Jenny's son, on. We had 600 people signed up, and I was going to the library to do my internet, and my webinar was at 8, and the internet library stopped at 7:30, and I found that out the night before. So I know I'm like, oh my gosh. So I had to go rent a room for 2 hours at the hotel to do my webinar because I didn't have the bandwidth at my house. So,
it is crazy what you learn. Quick story. Many, many years ago in a different lifetime, I was a caterer, and I actually catered a wedding on July 3rd in Pennsylvania, in a small town. And we found out that morning that there was going to be a 4th of July parade, right next to the hall where we were going to be serving, the wedding luncheon. And boy, did that put a snafu into delivery plans and timing and all of that. So you just can't do enough research when you are planning an event, right? Never would have thought that,
Right.
The 4th of July parade would come right down the street where we were having to cater this event. But anyway, so,
Exactly.
when someone takes an online class, how do you encourage them to prepare?
I love that question. So I find, especially with the surge in virtual classes, people are signing up all over and signing up for these classes, and then they're struggling with how am I going to do this? So I have 4 steps that I encourage you to take. And the first one is to schedule it. If you've taken a class and it's going to happen at a specific time, and even if there's going to be replays or not, if it's live, there's just something about being there live, whether it's virtual or not. So schedule it, make it a priority. And if it's not going to be live, if you're going to be watching the replay, schedule that also, because otherwise it just gets being pushed to the back. So schedule it, treat it like a real in-person class. And that brings me to my second one, and that is to prepare for your class. So if it gives you a supply list, gather up all those supplies as if you were going to walk out the door and take a hands-on class in person. Get your scissors, get your thread snips, get your extra bobbins, get your spool of thread, get your fabric. If it has to be cut to size, get it cut to size. So prepare. And then if it's an all-day class, get your beverage, get your snacks, get your lunch prepared. So at lunchtime, if you need to catch up on a little bit of stuff, your lunch is prepared. You can sit there and eat it while you're catching up. So prepare. And then the next thing, yeah, it is. And it took me a while to figure that out. I'm like, oh, it's 5 minutes till, I better get to that class online. But when I'm prepared, I get so much more out of it. Then the third thing, I have a terrible delay on my internet, so I'm sorry that I keep interrupting Eileen there. So, but the third thing is to engage. So if you've joined a class like this, I see comments coming in. I'm sorry, I'm talking. I can't talk and read on the screen at the same time. But engage in the class. Be a part of it. If you're live like we are, put your questions in, and hopefully we'll be able to answer some of those questions throughout this webinar. If there's a Facebook group, join the Facebook group. Put your questions up there. Let other people help you, because although I may know a whole lot about sewing, I definitely don't know everything. And so many of you have done so many incredible things and had different experiences than I have, that you're able to help these people just as well as I can in a lot of instances. So engage.
Absolutely. I mean, I see that here, and maybe not today. Well, we're getting lovely comments here that we'll talk about in a minute. But in my regular, weekly program, they help each other. People have comments and so forth. And when I share the small town charms, which we will be doing at the end of this program, so stay tuned. And I have a lot to share of those. I see how they encourage each other and they applaud each other and they have suggestions and ideas. It's wonderful. You had said how sewists are so supportive. They really are, and they're a caring community. It's a safe community. We're blessed to be a part of it. Absolutely.
We are. And I know how I feel when someone compliments something that I've done. I just, get the smile from ear to ear. And just imagine that you can do that for so many people and they can do that for you. So engage. That's really important. And then the last thing is create. So if you take a class, say you took this class, okay, but you didn't want to create the whole thing. You took it as an online class. You didn't do the live version of it or whatever. So you took it as an online class. Create at least one of those blocks. Do at least one of those techniques, and you're going to get 2 things from that. You're going to get experience doing it, but beyond that, it inspires you to get sewing and enjoying more. So one of my favorite sayings is, if you tell me, I forget. If you show me, I remember. If I do it, I understand. And that goes right in line with the other saying that says a body in motion stays in motion and a body at rest stays at rest. So the more you engage and actively create using the tools that you have, you're just going to do more and more and more. It just keeps you moving. So
Absolutely.
those are my suggestions.
That's great advice. Just really wonderful advice that we can all, take advantage of. But I just wanted to share this comment from Vicki Watkins. She says she's belonged to your guild. Yeah. And that you always have so much fun. Sometimes we are watching, sometimes we're doing show and tell, sometimes chatting, asking questions, sharing ideas. She really enjoys it. So that's lovely, Vicki. I know, right?
Vicki.
It's great.
Yeah. Vicki and I chat a lot. She's a very talented lady and very energetic. She's always in her sewing room.
Is she? Oh, I'm jealous, right? Running a business, you don't get to sew as much as you'd like. We have a comment from Judy Whitaker, who is a member of the OML group. Now, OML, Margaret, you may not be familiar with OML, but they're a free group online that Sue S. Brown is the host of that. And she conducts sew-alongs, all week. They're all free and so forth. And she calls her group members the gang, the OML gang, which is a lot of fun. And they do the small town charm once a month. So that's why a lot of, of these folks that are watching today are a part of both those groups, watching here and then also at OML. And we love them. And I think they have the same kind of sense of community that your people do too. So that's awesome. So I think you probably have some slides that you want to share so that people can see a little up close. And I know you have a special offer that you're going to share in a little while. So that's exciting.
Okay. All right. So let me go. Okay. I'm going into full screen here. So this is an image that shows you the original quilt, the one that's behind me, and then the one that I made that I briefly held up. But I just want to talk about some of the techniques on here. Again, it was created by Jenny Haskins. And if you look in the top left, we're going to go down the left column, and the top left block is a fan. And what we did there was we used a fussy cutting technique. So if you look at the one done in the brown, it's a little bit easier to see. The fan has 4 separate pieces, but the way they were cut was so that the same fabric was used at each part of each little section. So that's called fussy cutting. And then we have the beautiful 3-dimensional flowers on it and a tassel at the bottom, plus beautiful decorative stitches. Then if you go down to the second block in the left column, you'll see a freestanding butterfly. That is, it's actually not freestanding lace. It's done on organza. And then the excess organza is removed. We used water soluble also on that, organza and water soluble. And then it's on a block that has our stitch weaving or our fabric weaving. And we have such beautiful, beautiful stitches on our machines. This is a great way to use them. Then the third block down uses the twin needle. I love twin needle work, Eileen. I think it's so wonderful. It adds so much to our projects.
Twin needle work is something that we don't often, play with, but boy, it is really a showstopper when you add it.
It is. And this is just grid work. So it's just straight lines. So when we were creating this was one of the first blocks I had the group do because it was just stitching straight lines and it got them to use their twin needles. And for those of you who don't know, twin needles do come in multiple sizes. And then there's a freestanding lace over on the left-hand side and some freestanding flowers in the center. And then down at the bottom, that is stitch weaving. So those beautiful stitches, there's one down the middle. Let's look at the pink one. There's one down the middle, the scallop on the right, the scallop on the left. Then the green ones that go horizontal, there's one down the middle, and I think it's a little circle stitch on the top and a circle stitch on the bottom. And they're stitched in such a way that they look like they're woven. Now, that is not done with the embroidery hoop. It's done with your feed dogs up, and you feed that through. Then up on the top, yeah, isn't it a cool technique? I love it.
It is, yeah. And, I'm just going to interrupt you for a second because Judy Whitaker, who I know her work, Margaret, she's an outstanding embroiderer. And she wrote here, I have no clue how to use a twin needle. Well, let me tell you what the big secret about a twin needle is. Don't use the single stitch sole plate. So because, you have 2 needles coming down. So that's the only thing you need to know. Outside of that, stitch away, right?
Oh my gosh, yes. And you can do decorative stitches with your twin needle. Oh, it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And on some machines, you can say, I put in a 2mm twin needle or I put in a 4mm twin needle. And if you remember to do that, you won't break a needle. So, but you have to
Right.
remember to do that.
Yeah. And of course,
Um,
speaking of the plate, also the foot has to have an opening. So don't use like your 1/4 inch foot with
right.
a twin needle because you'll break the needle. But you should experiment with that, Judy. You have fantastic sewing skills. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so then down the right-hand column of the quilt, we've got a faux crazy patch technique. So that is just a brown piece of fabric, like the other ones are all, we started with 8 brown squares, and then we fused fabric on it. So the green stripe is a piece of fabric that's fused on it. At the bottom, you see white that has a green flower on it, that's fused on it. And on the left, there's a tan piece of fabric fused on. And again, we use those beautiful decorative stitches and put decorative stitches in certain areas. And then the flower is embroidered in the center. I believe we did that as the embroidery decoupage technique also. Then the brown square below that, that's our beautiful twin needle again. This time we didn't do straight lines. We just curved it. Then we did stippling or any kind of quilting in certain areas and left other areas open. Then the third block down is some more fabric weaving, and you can see the top right-hand section is tight together, and the bottom left-hand section, the brown fabric shows through. And the last block on that has some beautiful piped prairie points with decorative stitches. That's what forms the square around the heart in the center. And then you've got some embroidered hearts and freestanding lace. So just if you look at the two of them, what a difference color makes. And Eileen, that's something I talk about a lot also, is that when you look at something, you might look at it and think, oh, I don't like that. But maybe you don't like it because of the color. Or you may look at something and say, I love that. But maybe you're only attracted to the color. So knowing color is a little bit important also.
Yeah, color is pulls an emotional response from everyone. So that should be your first thing to consider. Do you love it because of the color, or do you dislike it because of the color?
Yeah, and I find myself doing that a lot. I'll be attracted to a color, but I really don't like the style of something. So, okay, so these are just to show you, these were made by 2 of the members, and then I have 2 more to show you. There were a whole bunch, but I just sized it down to 4 of them. But look how they each made it their own. So just to compare the 2 on the screen right now, the one on the left has red flowers on the sashing, where the person on the right, Elizabeth, took flowers and cut them out of her fabric and then fused them into the corner. So she took the idea and made it her own. And then you can see one has a light color blocks and one has the pink blocks in the center. But it's basically the same quilt, but it's been customized or created to be their own. Then the next 2 are the same, just a little compare and contrast. On the left-hand side, do you notice that she's got the blocks, then a sashing, then a white sashing, and then she put a little tiny sashing around it. Kathy did that. And she did that because once she butted her border fabric up against the sashing, the cream color sashing, she noticed there was a definite color difference. So simply by using her creativity, she put another sashing in there. Doesn't it look fabulous?
It does look fabulous, and it's a great solution. Often some of the best ideas come out of problems that we encounter while we're sewing, and that's a good example of that, right, Margaret?
Oh, absolutely. I learned so much when I do these classes with everybody. Our sewists are just genius. They just don't know it.
Yeah.
So,
Margaret, I'm going to interrupt because Ivy Daughtery, she has a question. She says, should you avoid twin needle at a certain thickness, quilt layers with batting?
oh, I say absolutely not. These twin needles are so pronounced because we ironed batting on the back of our fabric before we started. So that's what stuffs or fills the piping. It makes it a really raised, pronounced twin needle. So no, you can't do a really thick batting, but a thin batting, oh my gosh, is fabulous to use.
Sure.
And I encourage you to use the fusible.
The fusible. Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
So, okay. Okay, so a few more things on this. If you look the one on the left, she has two pieces of lace. One is on the left column and one is on the right-hand column. If you look to the one on the right-hand side, you can see that she has the flowers at the top of the fan, where the one on the left doesn't have the flowers on the top of the fan. So the same basic blocks, but again, color and making your own decisions makes it yours. Aren't these just wonderful though?
They're gorgeous, just stunning. I don't know which one I like better. I kind of like the low volume look on the right, where the colors really are more monochromatic, not as much contrast. But that purple is enticing also, so hard to choose.
I know it's hard to decide, but it's so fun because some of these ladies have been doing these techniques for years and years and years, and some had never, ever done any of them, and they all turned out gorgeous.
Beautiful.
So that was like our big project that we did in the Virtual Sewing Guild. So I started the middle, well, that was our second big project. I've been doing these for years, but you know how it goes. We change up the membership as we go along to meet everyone's needs. So that was our big project. And then these are not all from last year. They're from a variety of years, but these are what I call the smaller projects. So we have one big project where we meet every month and work through the project. And then we have 6 projects where they're pre-recorded and you get an email that says it's ready, and I am always there to answer questions. You have my personal phone number, so when you're a member, I actually email you and remind you to schedule a call if I haven't talked to you in a while.
Wow, that is really customer service. That's really
So,
very impressive. And Christina Cunningham Alfred wanted to know, are you still offering these classes? And she asked that when you had the Jenny Haskins quilt up. So I think that's what she's referring to.
yes, you can go to virtualsewingguild.net and you can still enroll in that class. You're going to get, everything's going to be pre-recorded. We won't be meeting monthly or everything, but you have all of those monthly meetings. So like I said, schedule, just put on your calendar that you're going to do that this month and watch that webinar and then work through it. And it's just like I am there with you. And yeah, so this month, so those are some of the smaller projects, which I love. So you can see I try to incorporate different things. We've got freestanding lace, we've got pillows, we've got bags. Well, there's striped binding. So I told you how to work with the stripe in particular. Then that little trolley tote, that has no embroidery on it at all. It's just my favorite tote. I have 3 of them now and I just love them. Then other projects that just encourage you to use your sewing machine and to expand your skills.
Beautiful.
So this year, thank you. This year, we're doing the Jenny's Heritage Quilt. And again, some people want to make the quilt, but some people don't want to do a whole quilt. So you have the option to do other things. You'll actually get directions to do the entire quilt, or you can do all pillows, and you can do anything in between, but you will have complete directions to do either, well, the quilt and the pillows. So we just had one meeting so far, and I actually closed the membership, and then Eileen asked me if I would do this. And so I got in touch with my assistant and I said, okay, Sharon, we're going to put that class back up, but only until, I think I said Sunday midnight. I have to get to the last slide to be sure. And I'm also giving you a discount, a huge discount on it.
Nice.
So yeah, so if you're interested, that's fine. I would love to have you. And since everything is pre-recorded, you really haven't missed anything. So when you go to virtualsewingguild.net, and that is a .net, remember that, because when I started all this, I wasn't smart enough to buy .com. And when I finally went to do it, somebody else had already purchased it. So I'm a .net. So scroll down until you see grab your premium membership. And when you get there, you'll be taken to this page that gives you a lot more details on everything. And it was selling up until the last day of March for $3.99. And then I closed the membership down. But like I said, I reopened it. So if you want it, you just click add to, let me go back one slide here. You'd click on sign up. So you kind of scroll through it all, click sign up at the bottom, and you'll be taken to this page where you add it to your cart. And the reason I go through this, Eileen, is every page is different. And I was just trying to make this easy for people. So, so click add to cart. And once you do that, you'll see a section where you can put in your coupon code. And the coupon code, the only way you're going to get it is here through this, is combo, all lowercase, COMBO. Type that in, then click apply coupon, and then always double check, look up at the top and make sure that your price has gone from $3.99. It says you're going to save $170 and you're only going to pay $229. And you get everything in the membership, including my personal phone number, so you can call me with any questions that you have.
That's so generous, Margaret. So very generous. Thank you for offering that to our viewers.
Well, good. I hope they'll take advantage of it, because it is a membership kind of like no other, because you do get so much of my personal attention, and we do so much fun stuff. And I just love being able to share all this. So I wanted to do something special for all your customers today.
Well, that's really very generous. And I know there was, like Jackie Click said, wow, that's beautiful. And Vicki Watkins, she admitted that she has one of those emails in her inbox right now that says, schedule your personal call with Margaret.
Yep.
I love that.
Yep.
Yeah. And Joanne Banco, our friend Joanne Banco, is here today. Hello, Joanne. And she loves that patchwork chair that you showed, one of those projects that you offer. I like that too. I thought that was really very cool. Yeah.
I made a couple of those for my sister-in-law, who is a third grade teacher. So, so I thought, why not just film this as I'm going so everybody can benefit from it.
Absolutely. And it looks great in a sewing room, right? Who doesn't want one of them in their sewing room? It's great.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Margaret, every one of my broadcasts is brought to us by a product of Dime, and this one is hoop mat. So I thought I would share the special price that's available, $19.99. They are in stock. Many of you know they were out of stock, taken down off our website for a while, but they're back in, thank goodness. And if you're not familiar with it, I'll just step over here and show you. It's a silicone mat that has a grid printed on it, and it has measurements on one side down here, but of course 0 is in the center because we're embroiderers, so we always want to work from the center out, and also a measurement on this side, and it rolls up. It stores so easily. You can take this to class. It's just very versatile. Once you place it in place, it doesn't slide. Now, it is heat resistant, but we don't encourage you to use it for pressing or any type of thing, but it is heat resistant, and that's good to know. So once you have your hoop in place, and whatever you're hooping, when you put that bottom one down, it just sits there and won't slide. So as you are fumbling around with stabilizer and fabric and so forth, like I could be right here, nothing's going to move. It's just going to stay right in place where I wanted it to. And, then I'm happy with that. Now, it does also work with our monster hoops. So if you have the flat metal bottom of monster hoop in place, it too will not slide. And again, you would just place your stabilizer over top, take your towel or whatever it is that you're going to be embroidering, and it keeps that bottom frame still so that when you are attaching that magnetic frame on top, you just don't have to worry about it moving, and you are all aligned and ready to roll. Now, many people say, well, it resembles a cutting mat. And I have some of these hoop mats at home that are in small pieces now because I have cut them apart. But our lead educator, Ashley Jones, she stores her hoop mat under her cutting mat because it doubles as an instrument to hold the cutting mat still. Sometimes they slide on a flat work surface. And then when she wants to use it as a hooping surface, she just moves away that cutting mat. So what can you use it for if you do cut it up? Well, you have 2 small hoop mats maybe, or you have 1 small hoop mat, depending on, how you diced it up. But we love that hoop mat. It's been so handy. People just love that it keeps your hoop still when you are hooping, because that's our biggest challenge. It's challenging enough to find the right design, determine the proper stabilizer to use, and then that hooping process is always, a little cumbersome for many people. And as long as you can keep the outer ring of a standard hoop or the flat metal bottom frame of Snap Hoop Monster still, then you don't have to worry about it moving all around and becoming, misaligned, because that's the biggest thing, right? We want to get it nice and square. It's a challenge, right, Margaret?
It is. And I tell you, when I go to sew, I want to enjoy my sewing. So everything I can do to make it more enjoyable is worth the investment to me. So I highly recommend getting the things we need to get the professional results we deserve.
That's right. If we were woodworkers, they don't hesitate to buy the right tools and tables and lasers and you name it. They want the right tool to get the job done as professionally and as easily as possible. Okay, so we have a question from Becky Munns for you, and she wants to know, are you planning another virtual expo in the fall? That she had attended several years and loved it.
You know what, Becky? I would love to do that. And I would love for all of you to send in suggestions of people who you think might be interested in doing it, because I didn't do it one year, then COVID came and I felt everybody was swamped with so much stuff. I left off that year, but yes, I would like to do it. But I'd love to hear about some new vendors, people that you all are interested in having come to the expo, and I will contact them and we'll see what we can do. I would love to do it. So thanks for the reminder. It actually slipped my mind.
Oh, well, that's great. We get our best ideas from our customers sometimes, don't we?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
So
and Becky says, yay, she's glad to hear that. And Reen Wilcoxon, do you know Reen, Margaret? She's of the Embroidery Garden fame. She's the founder of Embroidery. Yeah.
I didn't recognize the name, but I recognize the face. Yes.
Yes. So she says, great tip for the hoop mat. She has a beautiful sewing room. So I imagine she has a hoop mat in there that she uses all the time. I'm jealous of her new sewing room. It looks beautiful. It's just stunning. So anyway, shall we take a look at the small town charms?
Absolutely. I can't wait to see.
Well, Margaret may not be familiar with where we started with this. So we started in January, and every month on the last Thursday of the month, viewers are able to go to dzgns.com and download a free design. It comes in two sizes, 5x7 and 7x12, so that everybody can do it. It features a 3D awning so that, it just adds another element of interest to it. And our first one in January was the quilt shop, followed by the sweet shop in February, right? What else would you do for the sweet month of February? And then in March was the So Chic dress shop. And I added, some handbags and a chandelier to the 7x12. And in the 5x7, we have a second story. That was the first for that. So that's kind of fun. And then the flower shop is this month, April. And so far, I think this is my favorite. Well, every month, whatever one I most recently did is my favorite, truth be told. So let's see. But it's filled with just bright, colorful flowers. And I thought, it's a dreary winter. Let's have something bright and fun. So that was my idea behind the flower shop. So let's take a look at what many of you have made. Well, okay, I digress. I'm going back a year because I just spotted this quilt on Facebook made by Marianne McCain Dottie. Now, she is showcasing the doors from 2020. Now, the doors are no longer available, but she followed along all year, did all 12 months, and then put them together into this beautiful quilt. So let's take a look at each of her rows. Here we have January through April. She added some 3D lace charms. She's got a bumblebee on the potting shed in April and a butterfly hearts in February. And then the American flag on both the hospital in May and the beach house in July. She added a cross and some other elements to the door in June, and a cardinal on the roof of the lake house. And above that, she wrote, "Life very well done." Her last row, she added a house number to the troll tree, 127, and she put an owl up there. And super fun, a witch's hat that she added on the October, and some spiders she has in the web. And March, she added a broom in the foreground, or it's probably not a broom, it's probably a rake. And there's an animal there, but I can't quite see it. But didn't she do a great job, Margaret?
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's beautiful.
Yeah, they are. And where do you see? I mean, what's coming? They are just, okay, so here we have a kind of a late submission for the quilt shop, but it's so cute and quaint. I figured, well, why not add it? It's just adorable. And then Marilyn Fairfield did Sweet Dreams. This is her sweet shop. Now she added a number on the door and then open. That wasn't in the original download. And then we have Esther Hoplin. Now Esther's been posting and we've been missing her posts. So we're going to catch up with her. Here's her quilt shop and her Cake Superior sweet shop. Isn't it so cute? Really bright colors. I know. So nice. And then her So Chic dress shop. Now, there's wallpaper there, Margaret. Isn't that cool? So inside that glass front of the door, of the building, she selected another fabric to see, to add wallpaper. So pretty fun. Huh?
Adorable. Oh my gosh, these are wonderful.
They really are. It's just adorable. And then Luann Greenberg, she changed the name from Blooms to LaFleur. She lives in the Southwest, and she figured that was more, significant in her area than Blooms. So let's see. Some of my friends here are asking, are the doors from 2020 still available? And I have checked, and they are now taken down permanently. We have plans for them to be added to a new product coming out in the fall. So if you missed it, I'm sorry. And, it's just good reason for you to take advantage of 2021, because eventually they will be retired also. So they stay up for an entire year. And so please take advantage of it while they are available. Now, Margaret, look what Lisa Adams did. She's a bag maker. Yeah, she's a bag maker and added it to the bag. Beautiful bag, don't you think?
Oh my gosh, it is. Look at the pockets on the side and the detail for where the strap goes through. Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. And of course the design is beautiful.
Oh, thank you. It really came out very well. And she stitched a beautiful example of it. She did. Look at Jackie Burke. Oh, the color.
I love the pink. Yeah.
Yeah. And she put somewhat of a wallpaper in the door, right? In the window of the door. Oh, it's so nice. Really, really nice. And she had it a watering can. She's got a welcome mat. Those are items that were not included in the original download. And actually, she removed one of the pots and flowers and put in its place the watering can. So pretty cool. Lots of comments about the bag. They love the bag. That's very nice. Yeah. It's fun to see different ideas that people do, right? We're all inspired by that. Chris Yost, look at this. How beautiful is this? Fallen leaf flowers. She wrote on her awning. Now look at all the things she added. She's got a hummingbird on the right corner. She has a bumblebee and a hive. And then she also added a lamppost and a little doggy in the foreground. So
cute. Fun. Cute. And I love that blue door. The blue just pops. The whole thing is gorgeous.
I love the door too. I love blue. Well, clearly I wear it all the time. But anyway, and now look at what Chris Yost did upstairs. She added in upstairs, and we're going to get a closer look into that. Look. So on her second story, she's got like a gnome up there, a watering can, and all these flowers blooming, a bumblebee. I think there's even a snail. Isn't that adorable?
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh. Too cute.
Very cute. So creative. And their use of color. And Christina Cunningham Alford. So she merged the second story from the March small town charm onto the April 5x7 building because there wasn't a second story this month. So pretty cool.
Oh my gosh, such creativity. Oh my gosh, I love it.
You know, the whole idea is for people to use their software. Of course, making a lot of these changes is easier in software, no matter what software you use, whoever's, whatever brand you use. It's easier than trying to do that at the machine, because if you do it at the machine, I mean, it's possible, but it's a lot of sitting through and then advancing, skipping colors to make sure it doesn't stitch where you didn't want it to stitch, that kind of thing. So, I like getting people to use their software and stretch their software skills. And Renaud Paulson, now Renaud always does a beautiful example of whatever she's doing. It's always pristine. Look at the sunflower awning. How appropriate, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's beautiful. The whole thing is just so striking. Again, the creativity is just amazing.
Yeah, it's really great. And, fussy cutting that fabric for the window. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And look at, now I think this might be the first time I've seen this ball fringe on the awning. How fun, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Now that I think, and I don't know this for sure, but I think that's vinyl, a faux leather that she has used for the awning. And instead of turning the scallops, instead of turning the scallops, she just stitches it on the vinyl and then trims right outside of the line. So that's a great solution. Those scallops are a little tricky to trim. You get what I call blowout. Margaret, I'm sure you've had projects for that,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. That's adorable, though, to do it. That looks great.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're getting some comments about so the promo code doesn't work because the price is already marked down. So if you could just tell me, are you, I'm not quite sure if they're talking about dime on the hoop mat or like IB. Are you talking about dime or are you talking about the Virtual Sewing Guild? If you could let us know in the comments what promo code is not working. And because we have two offers here, we have the Virtual Sewing Guild offer, and then we also have the hoop mat. So they're a little different, two different websites, two different companies. Yes.
Right.
And then and let me just take care of Pearl. And she says, yes, the hoop mat. Okay, so that's my team. And so maybe somebody could, I think that, IB, I think that the hoop mat, that the promo code gives you free shipping. So yes, so that's what you want. The price is already reduced, but that promo code will give you the free shipping. And I see somebody saying, why doesn't my 5x7 April, it doesn't have a satin stitch? Does it not have a satin stitch? Because mine does. Mine sure does. Here, I could show you the sample. Mine sure does. And so maybe there was something with the download. Of course, now remember, this is the white, is stitched after you add the top fabric, and then the bottom satin is stitched after the sidewalk is added. So I will check that design on our website. I'll go download it and see if something happened in the transfer, but the original most certainly had it. So I will check that out and make sure that happened. It does. And Judy Whitaker, a whole bunch are saying it doesn't have a satin stitch. Okay, we'll get that fixed, and then you can re-download. Of course, if you've already stitched it, that's a bummer. And I apologize for that, but sometimes in the zipping of files and the transfer of files, things happen. So that's a bummer, right?
They'll get creative. They'll find something creative to do with that.
Right. And Norma Glenser, she did pipe in. She said, yes, she did use faux leather. So good. Thanks for clarifying that. Happy to know that. It's beautiful. Just beautiful. You did a really beautiful job. Okay. And then Stephanie Hardy said that Sue Brown probably added a satin stitch in her live. And I know Renaud added, she just sewed on her sewing machine a satin stitch, which is also a solution. But I'll get that design fixed. And then you can re-download it if you haven't already stitched it. So Margaret, what fun we had today.
Oh, it was fabulous, Eileen. I enjoyed every minute of it, and I'm so glad to see everything out there that you all are doing with those designs. They're amazing.
It is really amazing. You and I have been in this business for a very long time, and I'm sure you can relate to the fact that when we first started teaching, you had to teach people how to hoop. I mean, literally, they did not know how to hoop stabilizer
Yeah,
and fabric at all. They didn't even know that there's an orientation of a standard hoop, that the inner ring fits in a certain way, that even though
yeah,
it looks symmetrical, it's really not symmetrical, Let's see. So,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
we've come a long way, and the designs have come a long way too. I mean, nobody did anything like you did with the 3 dimension or anything. You took one design, you popped it in the middle of a square, and we loved it. There was nothing
Yeah,
wrong with it, but we've
right.
advanced so far.
Oh, we have. I
So,
mean, right, like I was saying earlier, I'm quilting king size quilts on my embroidery machine. Who would have
yes,
thought, right?
right,
It's amazing.
right.
So let's
No.
see, Pearl Vandermeer, she wanted me to answer, well, I know. She wants to know what size is the word bloom on, the April Small Town Charm. Well, I did use, I create all of these in Perfect Embroidery Pro, which is the digitizing software that Dime sells and that I've been using for 20 years. And so that's the Bauhaus font in the micro font. So it's small. It is small. It's about 3/8 of an inch. So that's all I can really tell you. If you have that software, then all you need to do is go ahead and select blooms in the software, and then you'll be able to type in whatever you want. Yeah. Okay, let's see. And Mary S. Larson, she says she's just starting with dyeing. Where are people getting the tiny animals? Well, a lot of them have it in their stash that they already have, embroidery designs that they've purchased elsewhere, or our friends over at OML Embroidery do a sew along every Saturday following the reveal of the Small Town Charm. And they often give away, they have minis, they call them minis, that they often give away to coordinate with the Small Town Charm. So you could go check them out, Mary Larson. Yes.
Nice.
Okay, well, I think we've answered all our questions. Next week, we're going to talk all about stitching faces and how to get color to work right and be realistic, because when all different types of skin tones, people come in all different colors, right? And so when you work with very pale skin or very dark skin, there are some guidelines that you should use, because if you stitch a face in very white thread, it has no dimension. And the same is true of a very black thread. It too has no dimension. So dimension is added by a variety of highlights and lowlights, just like makeup. It's just like
Yes.
makeup, really. So that's what we're going to talk about next week. And I have a guest that's joining me, and that is Sandra Shaw from the Embroidery Shop. So hopefully we'll see you here next week at 1 o'clock. But Margaret, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Well, thank you, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. What a great opportunity for me to be here. So thank you for the invitation.
Great. And, we'll see them online, right?
We will. Bye.
Okay. Bye.